Even though the financial crisis was 10 years ago, the ripple effects, they're still being felt. The Great Recession, it spawned a whole population of older Americans who have become nomads just trying to get by. And companies like Amazon, they've welcomed this low-cost workforce with open arms. A new book, it's called Nomadland. It describes this situation in vivid detail. And I recently sat down with its author, Jessica Bruder. Well, honestly, a really terrific book, and both, I think, eye-opening, at least for me, and really timely, even given the recent news cycle. To that end, how did you discover about such a much bigger population than I imagine of these kind of senior or adult age nomads that are going across the country in RVs, vans, and a lot of things in between?
Yeah, I actually learned about it. It's a little boring, but I'm an avid reader, and I read a lot about labor in the digital age. And I was reading a story about working in an Amazon warehouse, and I swear there were 2 paragraphs where somebody approached the reporter and said, yeah, I'm here because I live in an RV and I can't afford to retire, and there's a whole program for people like us. And after I read that, the story just kind of continued, but I got stuck there. My jaw dropped. And that was how I learned about Amazon's Camper Force program, which hires from this population, and how I started doing research into the thousands of employers who hire this wandering population of folks who are usually near or at retirement age and roving all over the country working.
And I want to come back to Amazon in a little bit, but and maybe if you talk about with some of the principles that you introduce us to in the book, including Linda May. So a lot of people think out there, hey, 2008, you know, obviously we saw the market crash, a lot of our 401ks took a beating, but that was then, this is now, it hurt. But for a lot of people, that was a hugely defining moment, especially if they were getting up there in age and it changed. A lot of their homes were underwater, a lot of homes that went into foreclosure. People who had productive, adult, working lives found themselves in an untenable situation, and that's how we meet a lot of these people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for many people, the Great Recession still hasn't ended and probably won't end. A lot of people who plan to retire on the equity in their homes and really couldn't wait for the market to get better. A lot of people who lost their retirement savings in the market. They're definitely among the people I found out there on the road. Folks for whom traditional housing just wasn't affordable anymore, who never really imagined that they'd be living, you know, in a nomadic way.
You know, one of the guys that I remember vividly from the book is Chuck. Chuck was a former VP. Things don't go right, and now we find him literally selling burgers and hot dogs at spring training games. It's interesting. Everybody's different. You can't cast a wide net, but they don't consider themselves homeless. They're more houseless, and they're kind of like modern-day itinerant workers. Talk about not only his story, but so many others that you find, and what's common about them.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is there are people who had it all together, had the best laid plans, and then lost it in 2008. And they also intersect with another group of workers who have been working low-wage jobs all their lives and haven't been able to put away those retirement savings. A lot of people forget that federal minimum wage is still $7.25 an hour. And that creates a really tenuous situation. I mean, right now, this very moment, if you look across the country, there are only a dozen counties and 1 metro area where somebody who's full-time minimum wage can afford a 1-bedroom apartment at fair market rent. So we've got this crazy situation where so many people lost their retirement savings, where wages are stagnant, housing prices are going up. It's really a perfect storm economically.
You know, one of the people you focus on a lot in your book is Linda May. And what I think people got to read the book for themselves, but you come across that she doesn't feel sorry for herself. In many ways, she feels liberated what she's doing. But here she is, having left, basically sleeping on the couch with her kid, with the grandkids there, setting out on the road. And she's got a vehicle where the check engine light doesn't even work anymore. And she's cleaning toilets as part of her job right now. She may have a sunny disposition, but I'm worried, what happens when the car goes out? What happens when her back goes out? There's such a vulnerability with her and so many people we meet in your book.
Absolutely, and it's really scary because a lot of them, including Linda, are still trucking, and Linda's doing quite well. But, you know, a woman I speak with all the time who's a van dweller, she was parked near an older guy in an RV just recently, and he seemed like he was really on the margins, hoping to get some family in to help him. and she hadn't seen him in a few days, and then there were flies on the screens, and he is not with us anymore.
And obviously that brings us to where we are in our national dialogue. We obviously saw the tax proposals both in the House and more recently in the Senate. And one thing we do know is we're going to see cutting at the social safety net, and the gap between have and have-nots are going to get even larger. There's little debate among anyone that's going to be the net conclusion when this thing's all said and done. To that end, I was at a conference lately, a Foursquare one, where among the takeaways with automation, even these kind of jobs that these folks are traveling from state to state to find for subsistence here, that's going to even go away to a certain point. It's a little bit of foreshadowing what we're looking with this thousands and thousands of people in this population. This could be what we're looking like at more of a bigger normal for too many people, right?
It's already become a bigger normal. When I first started reporting the book about, in 2013, I went to this event, I guess the following year, 2014, called the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous, which is a skill share for people who are mobile, and they go out to the desert and show each other how to live on the road. There were maybe 60 rigs there. Apparently last winter, there were 500 rigs there.
You mentioned Amazon, and to be fair, they've set up almost a community and stuff where these folks come around to. Did you walk away at the end just going to say to yourself, wow, this is really collaborative what they've created here, or are they taking advantage of a captive audience and putting them to work, albeit at some very low salaries here because, you know, they figured out, hey, we've got an intelligent workforce, I can get them on the cheap?
They definitely have an intelligent workforce on the cheap. I mean, there's no other way to interpret it. Whether or not you think it's exploitative depends on how cynical you are about the economy. I really believe that with the economy we've created, this is kind of the logical conclusion of it. But definitely it's in Amazon's best interest to do this. These are plug-and-play workers. They go away and then the company has no responsibility for them. It really is an employer's dream. And in my mind, a working nightmare.
The book, again, is called Nomadland, and it's Surviving America in the 21st Century. Jessica Bruder, really interesting read, and I, again, appreciate a few minutes with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And coming up next, one of our favorite segments, legendary theater critic John Simon joins us with a review of a new musical segment called The Band's Visit. It's getting rave reviews, but does the always hard to please Mr. Simon agree? We'll find out next.